nature, Divine Mercy Parish is celebrating 21 years, bringing a message of divine mercy to Belize. Hello, with this week's feature story, I am Tessa Habet. Our feature story is brought to you by Enrique Martinez and Sons.
Enrique Martinez and Sons. Introducing to Belize Cam2 lubricants, most dependable, outstanding quality lubricant on your supermarket shelves. Whether on the road, in the plant, or on the tracks, Cam2 lubricant remains the world's greatest. Cam2 lubricants meets and exceed the toughest condition with its highest API certification. Available in Belize at Enrique Martinez and Sons. Product choices includes 5W30, 10W30, 20W50, 10W40, ATF, multi-purpose grease. Come visit our store today and choose from Cam2 highest performance lubricants. Stand strong and independent, knowing you made the right choice with Cam2 lubricants.
Eternal Father, I offer you the body and the blood, soul and divinity of your dearly beloved Son.
On April 30th, 2000, John Paul II actively promoted the devotion to divine mercy to the whole world and canonized the Apostle of Divine Mercy, Saint Faustina Kowalska. On this very same day in our beloved country, a church was being dedicated to divine mercy. Its parish, rich in history even as the newest parish of only 21 years.
Mr. and Mrs. Omaria Perdomo donated this piece of land to Bishop Martin for the diocese for a church because there was a severe need of a church in this area because it was growing and it was expanding rapidly. It just so happened that there was a convention going on here, charismatic convention. And the guest speaker that was invited was Charlie Osborne and his team. Now, I was part of the service team, so I was selected along with Alicia to go and pick up our guest speaker, Charlie Osborne. Bishop Martin heard that Charlie was going to be doing preaching on the Creed. And when he heard what Charlie was saying and explaining to the congregation, he, Bishop Martin, invited Charlie to come back to do a workshop with all the Catholic school teachers.
Well, after Charlie's first visit to Belize, when he was a guest speaker at the Charismatic Convention, he must have liked Belize because from then on, he used to visit Belize on a very regular basis. As a matter of fact, he had a friend of his who had a twin-engine plane, and this friend of his used to fly him to Belize once a month.
Wow.
For him to give lectures. And usually those lectures used to take place at the Palotti Convent. And I remember that at one of these preaching sessions of Charlie at the Palotti Convent, he was preaching and he may have known about this piece of land that was donated to the diocese by Omaria Perdomo, I don't know. But in any event, I remember distinctly Charlie saying, I'm going to build a church here in Belize.
After it being only a piece of land with a cement foundation to begin the construction of the church, tireless efforts were made by several persons to fundraise enough money to obtain the necessary resources for construction.
I said we had come to live here, and we used to go to Holy Redeemer, then St. Joseph. And then my niece, Judith Rodriguez, she started having masses at her downstairs of her mother's house. And we were invited to go, and we started going there. And then the people said, well, we need to start a church. We need to start looking. And so I started out in the group with Miss Linda and Miss Barnett, quite a number of us. And they put down the cement foundation, and we put up a tent, and we started having mass there. And eventually the bishop said to the group, if you all begin to raise money for the church, I will match whatever you. And so fundraising started. I eventually kind of got into the background, and I said to my husband, I said, you like meetings, you are a finance person, so, and he got involved and started fundraising and collecting, because he was a very good collector. He used to be able to motivate people to give. So he started asking people for help, and they did. Then Charlie Osborne got involved in it.
I remember he telling me that at one of these sessions somewhere in New York, he had told the people attending this lecture that he was giving, and he told them about this church that he hoped to build in Belize. But of course, they didn't have any money, and so he asked the people if anybody would like to donate any money for it. Well, he would be, and the people of Belize as well would be grateful for it. And then I remember him saying that a little old lady came up trembling and handed him a piece of paper. And when he looked at it, it was a check for $100,000 US.
Wow.
And shortly after that, he was in Canada, and similarly in another preaching session up there, I think it was in Toronto. Again, after telling them about this church in Belize, somebody came and gave him a check of gave him a check for 50,000 Canadian dollars. And so on his next visit to Belize, he came here and he had two checks, one for 100,000 US and one for 50,000 Canadian. And he said, well, this is to start the building of this church. And it was with that money, which was just under $300,000 at the time, I think. And that was what was used to pay for the foundation of the church.
Most parishes are named by saints in commemoration of the saint chosen, but this community was charged with a very special devotion.
So it just so happened that there were some very interested parishioners in having a church up here, because most everyone was going over to St. Joseph's Church. They heard about the donation, and some of these women got together. I was told I made the appointment. And they went to the bishop. I was not with them. But in talking about it, they told the bishop, Bishop Martin, we heard you got some land, we need a church. And he says, we are going to build a church. Charlie Osborne said, we're going to build a church. And so Mrs. Barnett, Carmen Barnett, said to the bishop, Bishop, when we build this church, I would like this church to be named Divine Mercy Church.
And so we were about to leave, and then I stood up and I said, Bishop, we need to name the church. I said, what name would you give the church? I said, Divine Mercy Church. He said, well, usually we always name the church from a saint
Oh,
Like St. Mary, St. John, St. Martin,
Yes.
St. whatever.
yes.
He said, okay, that's okay. You go and raise funds and I will match it up. And we came back to her and reported that. That was it. We threw it right into her lap.
But when she told the bishop, Divine Mercy, I think then people were hearing a little bit about Divine Mercy. And so he said yes.
When I became a charismatic, I began to read my Bible, you know. And I realized that from the beginning of the Bible, God was a merciful God when He saved Cain. Remember Cain and Abel? Cain killed Abel.
Right.
And Cain cried out to the Lord after the Lord put the punishment. He said, no, they will kill me. The Lord told him, nobody will kill Cain. And Cain didn't die. So that was one of the biggest mercy of God.
All this began by the humble obedience of a relatively unknown nun in Poland, Saint Faustina Kowalska.
See, now Jesus, for those who may not know, Jesus was the one that asked St. Faustina that revealed his desire, asked that this be done. The first Sunday after Easter be solemnly declared and celebrated as Divine Mercy Sunday, in which the floodgates of his mercy are opened on this day to come to receive the sacrament of peace and reconciliation, for the Divine Mercy image to be solemnly blessed on that day. All these different graces in that moment. But the first day, the first moment that Divine Mercy Sunday was acknowledged in the Universal Church, Belize Divine Mercy Church was consecrated by Bishop Martin. It was also the day that St. Faustina, the one who's the secretary of God's mercy, this great saint of the new millennium, was canonized. And she was the first saint of not just the century, but the millennium. She was canonized on the same day. It was like as if Divine Mercy Church in Belize is a part of this overflowing grace of God's plan, which began many years ago in a little convent to an unknown sister in Poland, about his plan to bring his divine mercy to the world. This great celebrations were going on in Rome at the same time. Belize City is having its own celebration, consecrating a church to that very work and that vision. And we're part of that. The Divine Mercy devotion is incredibly important work throughout every priest that has come here. Divine Mercy devotion that is given from Jesus through St. Faustina was an essential element. One point that I am trying to bring for sure is that the devotion does not encompass the fullness of the work that Faustina and the gift that Faustina had to give to the church. And she says it herself about the very work of Divine Mercy. She says it was the will of God that was her great work. And the other part, she does because it's the will of God, but she was detached from it. That was as many souls, as much as the impact is. And I feel that, especially the message of mercy, is the greatest attribute of the Most Holy Trinity of God. And I feel there's a very deep invitation to communion with the Triune God that must be entered. It can only be entered through the mercy of God.
Along with the slow construction of the church, Mass was still celebrated and generous donations was made by different benefactors, and priests assisted in the organizing the interiors of the building.
So the crowd would come. I would make arrangements for a priest, and I want to say that the Jesuits really helped us out when Father Kurt couldn't come. They would come, they would bring everything that we needed. Afterwards, some people would fold up the chairs, and the priest would take up a collection. Everything would go to the treasurer, and we did this every Sunday because we felt like the foundation was there and people needed to know that they needed to support it. And so I have to give thanks to them. I can remember specifically Father Diekman. giving us as many vestments that he could find that weren't being used. And Father Lazarus Augustine, he loaned us the ciborium and all the different things that we needed to carry on until the construction started of the walls.
You know, it was built little by little, and it was finished. And then at that time, I think Charlie used to live on the, in the premises here, because it has a portion at the back that is used for living quarters, and he used to stay there. And I think that the first priest who was stationed here was also provided by Charlie,
Yes.
I think. He
Yes,
brought a
yes.
priest from the United States, Father Sebastian.
Yes. Each priest is distinct in their charisms and personality, which contributed to the development of what Divine Mercy Parish is today.
I guess after Charles Osborne was there, you had Father Sebastian, which was a beloved man. And we have to remember, it's all bush, right? There's not a few people, so there's just like a small little community out here. And he would take his little hat, and I heard his stories, and he would just go walk the streets. And he would just, there's people to this day love Father Sebastian. He became part of their families. He just go and visit them, share a meal with them. Yeah, just become like an uncle to them. You know, there weren't, the population wasn't as large as it was today. And it was a regular routine. You just see Father Sebastian walking around with that hat of his, and he's just visiting the people. He's seen by the people, praying with the people.
I usually come here because firstly, the church is always open. I believe the house of God should always be open because everybody has different needs at different times. I commute from Orange Walk and I do work in Ladyville, but whenever I have meetings in Belize City, when I pass through here, I can't avoid but stopping here because an open church is an open heart and a welcome home for me. So I stop here, even if I spend 5 to 10 minutes, I know I'm in the presence of the Holy Spirit. And that's one thing that I do enjoy, that the Holy Spirit is always present here and is visual, which brings meaning to myself. So I come here, as much as I could. If I go to city every day, I make sure I stop at least for 10 minutes. Something that I don't do in Orange Walk because their church is not as open, which I think is something very good that community has done over the years that I've known. How I came to come here is because I know Father Jim very well, and he changed our lives, my family's life. So something that I practice, my family practice. If I'm with the family, all of us come in, and sometimes my son has a dentist appointment on a Saturday when it's open, the last time both of my sons, and it makes me feel proud that I can walk into a church at any time and see the Holy Spirit being present.
So then after that, you have Father Jim Blunt, who's really beloved, and he really had the vision of this building that we're in right now, and this great ministry of Guadalupe Media, with laymen, Dharma Hefka, and Father Jim, very charismatic, he manifests the charismatic gifts in a unique way. And this is a time of faith for the people. This was a time of conversion, a time of pulling back the veil for many people, kind of stir up people's hearts. And you saw a certain excitement in that. Like you would go if you would go on the retreat, or if you witnessed a miracle of the God you learned about in your school, all of a sudden walk through the door and you're like, oh my goodness, then you're there. And that was a closeness. You saw this kind of intensity of faith, especially Father Jim. What a beloved man. He's definitely a loving man, Now, even at this point, Divine Mercy wasn't technically a parish. It was called a quasi-parish. And so Father Jim lived like a cowboy, He's all over the place, Something over here, he'd be going there middle of the night and doing exorcism here, or praying over this person, or trying to, and what a great gift and witness to help someone grow in their faith.
My father actually helped Charlie Osborne to build Divine Mercy Church, so I said I would go and see it. So Jason and I went, and we were just kind of blown away by Father Jim, by his mass, especially his homily. I remember the first time we saw him, he jumped up on the pew and was preaching really dynamically. And so we started coming here to Divine Mercy, and then we got engaged to be married, and Father Jim was preparing us, and we were really growing in friendship with him, and he was teaching us more about our faith, like helping us to be just more Orthodox Catholics, because even though I grew up going to Mass every Sunday and praying every day, reading the Bible with my family every day, I think that I wasn't being very faithful, and Jason says the same. So Father Jim really inspired us to be holy, and a couple of years later, in 2004, we got married here at Divine Mercy Church, and after a while, I think maybe a year or 2 years, when we had our first child, when he was like a toddler, I started working in Divine Mercy Church, and so I would work just a couple days a week, helping in the office, helping with the bulletin, and after that, just Divine Mercy just became like my home.
Father Jeff Epler came in after, and he brought a certain stability. He has a strong intellect, and then when in his early days, he was definitely a Eucharistic priest. He was in his young seminary days, or before he entered the seminary, he'd go to parish missions and preach perpetual adoration and the Blessed Sacrament and the Settlement. And I think in that time, Father Jeff started bringing the necessary structure that's needed for any kind of institution to grow, in which the charity and the mercy of God would flow. I think Father Jeff brought that without minimizing faith. I think because of his strong intellect and his encounter with God, he was able to do that and help people along the way. He helped people along the way to get there. He was accompanied with Father Dennis at the time. He was only here for a short time, for about a year, but he formed a parish council and a very strong foundation of the parish council, and trained them. And it was at that time they began to form the parish mission. But then Father Jeff started to bring in the 40 days for life, and the Eucharist becoming a source of power and strength. And so, I think those are the elements of the parish council. I think the structures. I think that Eucharistic center was kind of a significant contribution Father Jeff made.
What I find is that I feel that warmth, that closeness with all of us, like within the church, like we're a family. I feel that feeling of belonging, like you're home, like you have someone who's a real friend, There's a closeness there that I can't express. Deep within the heart, you feel a oneness with them, So I like that too. I like being with this little family here.
It caused me to begin to grow, because in the final analysis, when I think about going to Mass for so many years now, I was used to an answer to a prayer. I was brought into the Catholic Church, and I felt this real love that God is real, and that we are brothers and sisters. It is a very, very sober thing, very serious, because we are really children of the Most High God. And just like how He loves us, each one of us over here is numbered, just like that we are supposed to love one another, and and show mercy to one another, forgive, do the spiritual couple works of mercy. As I say, at the end of the day, we will be judged on that. When I was hungry, when I was thirsty, when I was homeless. And so coming to the church and seeing it lived out, first of all by the priests. Sincerity, that level of thing. Commitment. They're there and they do their work with so much love. they show mercy, they go the extra mile.
After Father Jeff is Father Turo, the pastor. Father Turo from the Philippines, bringing a very unique culture, a very Marian culture, very faith-filled culture. Right? Father Francisco and Father Henry were there with them, and there's different priests that came through at different times. But at that time, Father Turo, I would say that he just brought the kindness of Jesus. You know, if you're going to find like a kind man, like you're going to see Father Turo right there. You know, like you can always find a moment when someone's not kind. I'm not saying that, but like when the Holy Spirit's moving to someone at their best, right? When you see Father Turo, he really is just a disarming, welcoming, kind man, and it's very healing. It really is. There's something very beautiful and healing to just kind of, with the intensity of Father Jim that's coming through and yet the stability of Father Jeff, to have a kind of a man of great faith, but just kindness. Just kind of, it can lead to a settling. I think sometimes, maybe the people, I don't know if the people caught that gift or not, but it was a very important gift to grow. Because you can't just be moving the kind of intensity, whatever it may be. There's a certain, the kindness of Jesus to just have a sense of belonging. You know, and that was the grace being offered. I saw, it's not this, my view, right? The other people could highlight other gifts, but definitely I saw that. And, he encouraged the people to really get involved, and he reached out to the Filipino community, brought beautiful traditions. Milestones. And one of the devotions that he significantly brought in, it was Our Lady of Sorrows. It was his. We have a body corpus of Jesus and Our Lady of Sorrows that now takes part of our Good Friday procession. And I think that devotion to our sorrowful heart of our mother, many mothers, many women, and men find great consolation in Our Lady's presence as the sorrowful mother at the foot of the cross of Jesus. And then on August 15th, 2014, that's when we came. Father David and I myself came in. That's when we came.
Blessed good night. Our family attends Divine Mercy Catholic Church. Our priests encourage us to become domestic churches, and we as a family try to pray daily.
For we believe that the family that prays together
stays together. I think going to Mass together with my family is a gift. It also took time for me to realize the miracle that happens right in front of our eyes in Holy Mass. Now I would like to share something great that happened to me. I used to be scared because of a nightmare I had. I prayed for the feeling to go away, and it did. After today, I thank God that feeling is gone.
Our priest has also encouraged us to build a civilization of love by attending social events such as breakfasts after Sunday morning masses.
And attending Easter events. And attending summer camps.
and All Saints activities for the kids.
Our priest has also encouraged all families to build an altar in their homes to draw them closer during prayer time.
I came into the Divine Mercy family practically at my birth, and being involved in the parish has given me purpose and led me closer to Christ. Each priest that has passed through the parish has impacted my life in a very unique and special way. The parishioners are my family, and I have met some of my closest friends here. Divine Mercy Church has also given me many opportunities, and I wouldn't be reading the news and working at Guadalupe Media if it weren't for my involvement in my parish. Now for a very special message.
1990, I got a telephone call to do a mission in Belize at the cathedral for Bishop O.P. Martin. And I went, and while I was there, Bishop Martin said, "Charlie, you need to build us a church out at Buttonwood Bay. I said, Bishop, I don't have no money to build a church. He said, I know you don't have any money, but you have God, and God will supply the money if you just make a decision to build it. That was in 1990. The church was built and dedicated in the year 2000 by Bishop O.P. Martin, my hero. I hope to see all of you again, not on this side, but on the other side.
So I wish all of you
Yeah.
a blessed 21st anniversary of the Divine Mercy Church, and hello to all of our friends in Belize.
Yeah.
We love you.
Very
Bye.
much, very much.
On behalf of all of us here at Guadalupe Media and the wider Diocese of Belize and Belmopan, happy 21st anniversary Divine Mercy Parish. May God continue to bless and keep you. May His face continue to shine brightly upon you. God bless you.
On behalf of all our parishioners of Divine Mercy Church, I would like to share our heartfelt gratitude and appreciation for all the generosity of time, talent, and financial treasures that help build our civilization of love. To all our parishioners who in their own way are true followers of the Divine Mercy message, to the volunteers and behind-the-scenes crew that turn our church into a piece of heaven on earth on all those very special occasions, to our priests and religious who through their wonderful examples have shown us the message of mercy through their own special charisms, to our generous supporters who continue to allow us to spread the good news to others. May the merciful blessings of our Divine Mercy Jesus be poured out on you today and always. We thank you.
All are invited to celebrate on Sunday, April 11th, 2021. Confession begins at 12 to 3 o'clock p.m. At 2:45, the Divine Mercy Chaplet will begin for the souls of those who lost their lives during the COVID-19 pandemic. At 3 o'clock p.m., there will be the solemn blessing of the Divine Mercy image, followed by Mass. Immediately following the Mass, there will be a Eucharistic procession passing through the surrounding communities. Everyone is invited to participate in the works of mercy. You can sign up for the evangelization in the Balama area or donate non-perishable food items to the food drive to assist families in need, or sign up to serve a meal to the homeless on Saturday, April 10th, 2021. For more information, please call 636-0244. We can't wait to see you. And that's our feature story. Thanks for watching. For this and more feature stories, you can follow us on Facebook, subscribe to our YouTube channel, or view on Guadalupe Media on CCV or on CBC. You can also tune in on the radio in your car, home, or office at 101.9 FM. And please be sure to download the Guadalupe Media radio app from Google Play or the App Store. Our Blessed Mother, lead us to Jesus.